Good morning, welcome in. Welcome to week 2 of 2021, and welcome to week 2 in the 8-part series that I'm beginning 2021 with, focusing on selling behind the chair in the professional beauty and barber industry. We've got a whole lot going on. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and we are taking this bit of our time in our day to focus on what we can do specifically in the area of driving sales to build and grow our business in the coming year for 2021. Let's start off, as tradition dictates, with our reading from $100,000 Hair Cutter. And I just want to pause and remind you before we go here, starting January 14th, which is coming up in just a couple of days, I have a 4-part educational series on building business post-pandemic. I mean, I don't know if it's fair to call it post-pandemic just yet, but in a coronavirus-impacted marketplace. Go to my link on my Instagram, go to my link on my Twitter. If you can't find the link to register, just shoot me a message any way you wish, and I will send you the link to register for this free program. And it's a video-based program, meaning it's not a timed webinar where you have to show up on a day at a time. You'll get an email with a link to watch the video, and you watch it when it works for you. It's a totally free series, a 4-part series on building business in a coronavirus-impacted marketplace, and I invite you to join me for that. Today is January 11. Let's go to $100,000 Hair Cutter. January 11. We're almost there. Here we are, January 11, day 11. 354 days remaining in the year. They're ticking away one at a time. Just say no. That's the idea for the day. Will you come in early to cut my hair? Nope. Will you stay late to cut my hair? Nope. Your book is full. Can you squeeze me in? Bet you know what the answer to that is. The answer is a polite but firm no. Get okay with delivering no. And do it well. Setting boundaries will be an important part of managing your business, your life, and your own personal mental health. The key to happiness is staying sane. You'll get there by saying no when and where it's appropriate. You've got to set some boundaries. Boundary setting is step number 1 in my $100,000 Hair Cutter system. I've talked about this for a long, long time. There's a time and a place for yes. The customer's always right, right? Well, not always. But there's a time and a place for no. And you got to get comfortable saying no, to put a little fence around your business, your life, your circumstances, and your situation. One idea a day, every single day for 365 days. Say yes to impacting your day in a positive way every single day. ivanzoot.com to get your copy of the book, paper, digital, or audio, or on the Patreon page, and I'll put a link in this video. You can subscribe to receive the $100,000 Hair Cutter tip of the day every day in a digital format. All right, here we go. We are on our way with week 2. Step 2 in our conversation about selling behind the chair. In step 1, we talked about the importance of seeing sales, selling is helping. Seeing sales as a way to effectively help people. And one of the things I've talked about was the inspiration for this. You know, I received a gift subscription to an online program called Masterclass. If you're not familiar with it, I definitely suggest you check it out. It is the people in the world who are the best in the world at the things that they do, teaching about the things that they do, the best people teaching their best stuff. And one of the series within the Masterclass program was on selling. And I'm not finished with it. I've only really just begun. I think I'm 4 parts in, but I found it fascinating. I found it helpful, and I found it extremely educational. It features a guy by the name of Daniel Pink. And I like the series so much that although I'm not finished with it, I got his book from a library. This is To Sell is Human, and the bookmark's in there. I'm not far enough along in the book to recommend it yet, but I got a sneaky feeling I can recommend it. I'm liking what I'm reading already, and it's only going to get better, I believe. But I'm going to continue to watch that web series. I'm going to continue to read the book, and some of the things I'm sharing are inspired by or excerpted from this man's content. So credit where credit is due. I look forward to getting a whole lot more from him. And as I learn about it, I look forward to sharing it with you. So selling is helping is what we talked about in week 1. In week 2, we're going to talk about sales based on a foundation of truth. And I think today, truth has been beaten up just a little bit. And there's nowhere like sales in terms of the importance today of truth. Truth really, it's based in integrity. It's what we're talking about. And when we talk about it's a foundation of integrity. And when we talk about integrity, I'm reminded of an expression. I don't know where I heard it or learned it. I don't know who the quote is to be attributed to, but the quote goes like this: if you have integrity in your actions and deeds, you don't need anything else, really. If you have integrity, you don't need anything else. And if you don't have integrity, it really doesn't matter whatever else you might have. Two sides of that integrity-focused conversation. I like it. I think it makes a real strong point in that regard. I think we have to look at sales foundationally from the notion that if it isn't right, don't sell it. You can't be putting square pegs in round holes, so to speak. You can't be forcing it. I think we have to really decide, is what I am offering, is what I am selling true, right, good, appropriate, fair? Choose the words you want, but is it the right thing for this customer? If it's not, don't sell it. Don't even offer it. Don't try to force the sale. That's not to say we wouldn't allow someone to buy something they want to buy. You know, you want to buy it, I'll certainly take your money, but I might be choosing to suggest or recommend that there are other options that may be better for you. That's my role, sales as an information provider. I think truth teller with information provider goes a long way right there. You know, I can share with you, I've found myself in situations in which sales management in previous forms of my career has tried to encourage us to sell what we have. You know, we've got a lot of something, maybe marketing planned for something that, you know, isn't really right now, or maybe manufacturing built too many of something, so we got a pile of them back in the warehouse. I've been in situations at trade shows in which management has said, hey, we got a lot of XYZ, you got to push it. And I think that's really putting salespeople in a very challenging position. I think we know when we're, you know, and let's face it, sometimes the thing we got a lot of and the things we want to push are really good and they're right for a lot of people, and that's okay. But, you know, when you find yourself in a situation in which you had, you know, this one and that one at the event or at the sales opportunity, and this was the hot one, everybody wanted it, everybody bought it, and they're gone, and now we're left with this one. Well, that doesn't mean this one doesn't have positive attributes, true benefits, and it isn't right for a whole lot of people. But are we going there first and early, strictly to move that merch? I think that's where some of us as salespeople find ourselves challenged a little bit. We want to do what's best, what's true, what's right, and what's good by our customers. You know, I use an example in the podcast this week, and I'll talk about it here, and it's the notion of the way the automobile industry had worked for a time and was pointed out to me a while back. It was like the difference between maybe at the time Japanese automakers versus American automakers from a manufacturing, marketing, and selling standpoint. You know, the accusation was that the American manufacturers made cars. Manufacturing made them. You know, the companies produced them. And then they shipped them out to the dealers, and the salespeople went, well, I got to figure out how to sell this thing. And let's face it, there was a time when certain things that were offered up by certain American manufacturers maybe weren't the greatest, or maybe were out of touch with consumer demand. The flip side of that is the Japanese were accused of playing a little differently. The Japanese were described as having gone out and talked to the customers, engaged with the customers, asked questions. What do you want to buy? What are you looking for? What can we get for you? And then went back and built what people wanted, so that when they handed them off to the dealers, to the salespeople simply were in a position of saying, this is what you wanted, we got them over here, come get them. And it worked. And quite frankly, it worked. More of a consumer-driven decision-making process in which we were asking what people wanted, building what they wanted, and then simply just giving it to them. Totally changed, I think, the perspective from selling something. You know, there's a notion, or there's a feeling, or there's an idea that selling is a force. We're forcing somebody to something that they may not on their own, of their own volition, choose to engage with. So I think that's a huge flip-flop right there. And I want to take the automotive analogy one step further in the sales conversation, because I want to talk about the idea that Daniel talks about in the web series I watched. I haven't come up on it in the book, but it's probably in there. It's the notion of the availability of and the access to information for customers and for sellers. He talks about the idea, and I think this is so very true in so many businesses. Certainly it's true in the car business, and I read articles about this quite a while back. It's not something that's particularly new, but it's the access to information. What he calls in the book, or I'm sorry, in the video series, information asymmetry. That there was a time when the experts, the salespeople, the manufacturers, the marketing people, held all the information. For instance, when you went looking to buy a car, you would visit the showroom and you would look at cars on the floor. You might look at cars on the lot. You might read the window stickers. You might ask for and be given a brochure to gather information about a prospective car purchase. And walking into the dealer, I think people felt the intimidation that, hey, these people have all the information. These people hold all the cards, so to speak. And I'm coming in as a customer at a bit of a disadvantage. Well, I believe that that information asymmetry has shifted in a huge way to what is called or referenced information parity. And that is the idea that access to information is very democratic. Everybody has access to it. Today, it is understood that when an individual shows up at a car dealer to prospectively purchase an automobile, they've already done all their research. They've read the website. They've read comparisons online. They've talked to current owners. They've asked questions on social media. They've looked at all the pictures. They've dug into the pricing. And in some cases, many cases, I believe, when a educated consumer who's availed themselves, thank you, internet, of the information available, they show up, in many cases, with more information than the salespeople, better educated about the salespeople. Use as an example the car analogy, a dealer with a brand might have 12 models. And that salespeople might be charged with the responsibility of knowing everything he can about all 12 models this year. Forget about what you knew about last year's cars. Don't worry about next year's cars. 12 models right now. That's a lot to know. Meanwhile, you've got one customer who's selected one particular model that they're seeking, who's gathered all of the information. They're an expert. So in some cases, information asymmetry has moved to information parity, that we have equal access to an incredible amount of information. And in some cases, it's moved the next step beyond to an information asymmetry that favors the customer. That favors the customer. And by the way, if it's your hard-earned money that you're spending, that you're going to part with, and if we're talking cars, we're talking big money, not so much for haircuts and shampoo bottles, but if it's your hard-earned money you're going to part with, you may have, or you may feel you have, an even greater incentive to know more than your, I'm going to use the word, adversary. And should a customer and salesperson relationship really be adversarial? I don't think so. I don't think it should, but let's face it, history says that sometimes it does in fact feel that way, and sometimes that is kind of how it is. But that information asymmetry is essentially flipped in potentially a big way. You know, there's an expression we all know. It's probably one of the only Latin expressions you know. Latin is a dead language. It's probably one of the only things that has survived, and that is caveat emptor. Caveat emptor. Translated, let the buyer beware. The fact that that phrase has stuck around says a little something about how we view sales. But I don't think we're in that situation anymore. I don't know how to say it in Latin, but there's an expression out there that should be, the buyer is prepared. And in many cases, many cases, they absolutely are. So this idea of truth-based selling, not putting square pegs in round holes, not selling for the sake of selling, but selling to truly provide significant benefit to our customer. When we get into the haircut business, we're going to talk about things over the next several weeks like the power of product and the importance of using, suggesting, and recommending professional take-home hair care product. One of the ideas we touched on last week was the notion that you cannot cost cut your way to profitability. And that's really the origin of this whole selling series, that you can cut costs. And my God, with the pandemic, many of us have had to figure out how to trim our costs to really stop the spending of unnecessary dollars because revenue has slowed and there's less incoming revenue. But there's only so much you can cut cost before, in order to grow, you truly need new dollars flowing in from the top of your mathematical equation. So $100,000 hair cutter, a mindset and a concept. When we talk about building and growing business, of course, the 100 by 100 book, 100 new haircut customers in 100 days. That's selling, guys. This is about selling people on the idea of choosing you as their hair cutter. It's selling. That's what we come down to. And this is a day-by-day, step-by-step plan. You can still have this book for free at ivanzoot.com. Just click the link for the free book offer. And of course, Big Busy and Bigger Busy Barbershop, the marketing books. Year 1, Year 2, 1 through 52, 53 through 104. 2 solid years of marketing tactics. Marketing is a function of sales. It's really everything we do, including our sales activity. It's how we look, how we smell, the things we say, the messages we put out there in every form, auditory, visual, you name it. It's all marketing, guys. Everything we're doing. So one of the other features of this web series is selling tips. One of the things I've said I'm going to do is I'm going to add to every one of these 8 videos in the series at the back end, because we're coming up on the back end now, a selling tip, and a tip that you can put into practice immediately. Something you can start to do today as you interact with your haircut customers to help you build and grow your business from a selling perspective. A selling technique. Technique of the week, as I like to call it. This week's technique is what we call assumptive speaking. Assumptive speaking is about choosing our words. It's about being very deliberate with the language that we use as we interact with our customers. It's about saying things that are designed to increase our sales successes and increase our selling effectiveness. It's just pure technique right here. This is not the concepts of selling. This is not the principles, the lofty ideals associated with selling. This is just, let's get into the trench and let's make some sales happen. And what we're talking about here is assumptive speaking. Assumptive speaking is wording things in a manner that treats the sale as a foregone conclusion. This is not asking people to buy. In many ways, this is talking to people as though the sale is a foregone conclusion. It's going to happen. It's not if they're going to buy, it's that they bought. It's not if you choose this item, it is when you use this item. And of course, the use of the item in your home later on is the result of the purchase. So we're assuming the purchase. That's why it's called speaking assumptively. And I'll give you an example. When we talk about, for instance, the fragrance of a product, it's not, what do you think of the fragrance? Do you like the fragrance? It is, when you're using this at home in the shower, the fragrance on this is awesome and you're going to enjoy it. You're going to be enjoying it. Speaking as though this is going to happen. One of my favorite ones is when we talk about the concentrated nature of products. Use very little of this at home, because when you use it the first time, you're going to use too much and there's going to be all this crazy lather. And you're going to say to yourself, boy, next time I'm going to use a little bit less. It's not if you take this home, this might happen. It is painting the picture of this happening because it is an inevitability. It is going to happen. Perfect example, hair gel. You're demonstrating for a customer. You put it in your hand, you squeeze out an appropriate amount of hair gel, and you say, that's what you use tomorrow. You're going to put that much in your hand and put that much in your hair. And there's lots of ways to play with this. It might be a great workshop for you or for your salon or shop team to come up with the kind of phrases we can use when we speak assumptively. Talk about rebooking customers. Do you want to rebook your appointment? That's not an assumptive phrase. You should be back in 3 weeks. That's not an assumptive phrase. I'm going to see you the week of February 7th. That's an assumptive phrase. Treating the idea that the customer is going to book that appointment for the week of February 7th, it's already happened. When I see you on February 7th, don't forget to pick up another bottle of that gel, unless you want to take it now. That's very assumptive. Assuming they're going to like the gel, assuming they're going to rebook their appointment, assuming the week they're going to be in. These can be powerful because they paint pictures in people's minds of these good things happening the way we hope to have them happen. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. Thank you for watching week 2. If you missed week 1, go back and watch it. Next week, of course, will be week 3. We're going to continue to produce these every week on Mondays. Of course, don't forget the podcast corresponds, the blog post corresponds. This is the live class or the video recorded class, as the case may be. I thank you so much for being here. Visit me at ivanzoot.com for help with this and anything else you need to help you build and grow your business, because that's my job. I'm going to have that conversation with you when you use the Talk to Ivan function on the website. You're going to be on the website. You're going to click that red button. After you put in your name, your email address, and your question, you're going to get an email back from me with answers, support, help, and assistance. That's called speaking assumptively, because I know you're going to call. Thanks for being here. Have a great day.